Rowan Atkinson. There's a man who can walk into a room, say absolutely nothing, and within 30 seconds have everyone doubled over in laughter. No punchline, no setup, not a single word, just a face, a body, and a kind of silent chaos that somehow rewires your brain into pure, helpless joy. That man is Rowan Atkinson, and what makes him truly fascinating isn't just the fact that he's funny. It's that he'll be the first to tell you he finds almost nothing funny himself. That contradiction is what we're diving into today. Because behind the rubbery face, and the awkward shuffling, and the perfectly timed disaster sequences, there's a deeply thoughtful, intensely private, almost philosophical performer who has spent decades engineering laughter with the precision of a watchmaker. This is the story of how he does it, why it works, and some of the most extraordinary moments, both on and off screen, that prove Rowan Atkinson is in a category entirely his own. Let's start with the beginning. Not the polished, rehearsed beginning you might expect from someone who went on to become one of Britain's most beloved comedians, but a genuinely accidental one. By his own account, Mr. Bean, one of the most recognizable comic characters in television history, was born in front of a mirror. Atkinson has described standing there, just pulling faces, experimenting with expressions the way a child might, not with any particular goal in mind, just curiosity. At some point, he picked up a piece of paper, held it in front of him, and something clicked. A character began to emerge. A strange, wordless, magnificently odd little man started taking shape. He's admitted that demonstrating this origin story in an interview setting is almost impossible, because the thing that made it funny in the first place, the spontaneity, the context, the accident of discovery, evaporates the moment you try to recreate it deliberately. But there's something deeply poetic about the fact that Mr. Bean came into existence not through years of careful scriptwriting or workshop development, but through a guy standing alone, making faces at his own reflection. What's remarkable is that this approach was actually noticed very early. The story has been told, including by Stephen Colbert, who heard it from writer Richard Curtis, that back at Oxford, Curtis considered himself the sharp one, the wordsmith, the man with the clever turn of phrase. Then one night, he watched someone walk onto a stage with nothing but a piece of paper. No words, no jokes in the traditional sense. Just presence. And this performer held the room completely spellbound for 7 minutes. Curtis reportedly found the experience genuinely demoralizing, being outshone by someone who didn't even open his mouth. That performer, of course, was Atkinson. This speaks to something essential about how he thinks about comedy. He has explained in interviews that he's less interested in jokes as jokes, and more interested in performance as an art form. When someone tells him something funny, he often finds himself analyzing the structure of it, the timing, the architecture, the delivery, rather than simply laughing at it. He described this once as a kind of slow internal processing. The laughter comes later, sometimes long after the moment has passed, when he suddenly appreciates the elegance of how something was constructed. It's a bit like the way a musician might listen to a song and admire the chord progression while everyone else is just dancing. In fact, he's openly said that very few people and very few situations actually make him laugh. He mentioned that throughout the entire run of Blackadder, all those series, all those scenes, there isn't a single moment of him genuinely cracking up on camera. Not one. While his co-stars and crew were apparently struggling to keep straight faces around him, he was locked in, focused, unsmiling. He has reflected on this himself with a kind of wry acknowledgement that it's a strange quality for a comedian to possess. What moves him, he's said, isn't so much the joke itself, but the attitude behind it. The character. The spirit with which humor is delivered. Speaking of Blackadder, here's a detail about that show that reveals just how carefully Atkinson and his collaborators think. When he and his team decided to make a sitcom after their work on Not the 9 O'Clock News, they were immediately aware of one enormous problem. Fawlty Towers existed. John Cleese's masterpiece of frustrated fury and comic catastrophe was sitting there like a monument, and anything they made set in contemporary Britain was going to be measured against it, and probably found wanting. So their solution was simple: audacious, and entirely logical. Move the show somewhere else entirely. Put it in the past. Not just one past, but multiple pasts. Medieval England, the Elizabethan court, the Regency